Hi, this is Uwe here. Normally I wouldn't be interested in talking about stuff outside of the game itself, and these sort of things are generally not important to me. But I think it is important to talk about this, mainly because it does affect league starts. And if it does affect league starts, it does affect the average POE league starter's perspective on what is a strong build and what is a weak build. And for a lot of people, it's extremely subjective, because everyone wants to do different things in the league. Everyone has a different opinion on what is clunky and not clunky, and because of that, it's very hard to tell what is an absolutely strong build and what is an absolutely weak build, right? And so this particular disagreement, argument, problem with Ruetoo and Subtractem was that Ruetoo likes to review builds, alright? And he's pretty good at building builds. And I think he was looking at Subtractem's Fire Trap Elementalist, realized that there was no new tech involved, and the way Subtractem was going about with his league starter was suboptimal. And his viewers started giving Subtractem trouble. To be frank, I'm part of Ruetoo's community as well. I'm not part of Subtractem's community, but and I understand Ruetoo's community is fucking toxic. But yeah, and so basically, Ruetoo's community gave Subtractem shit, and then Subtractem's community got Ruetoo banned as a result of that. All right, and let me go into why I want to talk about this, right? Why I want to touch base about this for you guys. First and foremost, this is my opinion, and that both Ruetoo and Subtractem make bad builds. Let me explain myself. Let me justify myself here. All right. Ruetoo is one of the best build makers in the game. I'll say, like, hands down. Like, the many times I've actually gone through his POBs, look up the mechanics, because he's really figured them out, and then utilize a lot of his tech as well. But I'll explain to you why I would say Ruetoo makes bad builds. And same with Subtractem, same with every other content creator out there. And the problem with POE in particular, unless you're an SSFHC, and unless you're rather SSF, unless you're playing SSF and you're looking at an SSF guide, right? The problem with every POE build is that at the league start, the economy plays a very huge part of your progression, especially in the first week. If you're talking about 3-4 weeks into the league, you're starting the league late, it usually doesn't matter as much, because the economy has stabilized, and generally whatever guide has been put out at that point is going to be a little bit easier to attain, right? But at league start, it's a very unique beast that you have to deal with, and that everyone is competing for the same amount of gear, the same types of gear, in that very limited, because it's a league start, right? So there's no gear in the market, right? And so it takes time for gear to trickle in, for people to farm the stuff they need, to be able to sell the stuff they farm, and this takes a while. And most of the time, if you are a content creator, if you're listening to a content creator and that content creator is popular and you're following their build, very likely a lot of people are also following that build, which means everyone's funneled into wanting the same set of items, right? Of course, it's quite possible for content creator to come up with a build. I've been trying to do this, I'll be frank. I've been trying to do this, it's still hard. To come up with a build that doesn't require extremely unique pieces. Basically, I will look at it this way. If you can get a build that functions on like 4 different unique items, and every unique item is like a tier 2 or 3 item, it's not tier 0 or tier 1, attaining it's relatively easy, right? And therefore you'll be able to attain the build within a week worth of play, right? But because everyone's being, let's say for example, you want to follow a Ruetoo build, and to be frank, ceteris paribus, if you assume that you're going to get all the items you need, Ruetoo's builds are almost, they're perfect, right? They're literally the best builds you can probably league start with, except for Corrupting Fever. Anyway, that's my personal opinion. Anyway, so the issue with that is, as everyone's funneled for the same few items, and also because a lot of Ruetoo's community likes to snipe the items, to be frank, they buy the items off the market, control it, and reflip it so they can fund their own builds. You end up having a situation where even if his build is strong, even if it looks nice in POB, even if it can do the things it's supposed to do once you get those items, you're just simply not going to get those items at the time you need them. And so it hurts your progression. And most people don't realize this because they don't think about the economy, they don't think about the information economy when they league start. So that being said, if you are following a popular streamer, content creator, whatever, you have to make sure you're ahead of the curve. Can you play more than the average viewer or the average person following that build? If you can, then yeah, as you're ahead of the curve, you get the items faster than anyone else, and you can sell off your order. You can sell off your hand-me-downs still at a premium. The problem is when you are slower than everyone else, and everyone's going to move away from that build, like maybe week 2, and you're stuck with all these items that no one else wants anymore. So that's the problem with following a major content creator. And in fact, as long as you're following any major content creator, you're gonna run into those problems. So my suggestion in general is, if you want to be able to have a clean, effective league start and you want to be able to do well, you generally have to come up with your own builds. Because if you come up with your own builds, you're going to understand the scaling mechanics, you understand what you can swap out with. Like, instead of going for, I'll give you an example. Last league, I wanted a heat shiver on day 1. And heat shivers were like 20 chaos or 30 chaos because some other idiot, not some other idiot, everyone knows it's strong, okay? And other content creators were pushing for it. So I didn't buy a heat shiver in day 1 or 2. And what does that mean? I need to find other ways of scaling my damage early that that was within my budget, right? And then save currency for a heat shiver later on. And I ended up buying a Shroud the Lightless 3-socket Abyss Jewel. Of course, the price of that shot up afterwards to like 9 divs. But what I'm trying to say is, if you understand how your build scales because you build it yourself, and you understand every mechanic about it, you're generally going to be fine because you figure out a problem. You figure out how to solve the problem with the changing structure of, in the sense, the economy, right? So that being said, yeah, if you want to do well, understand how a build works, understand the mechanics, and then you'll be able to figure out problems for yourself rather than relying on the content creator. The other solution to your problem, and this is something I've also noticed, the other solution to your problem is to look up content creators that are extremely unknown, right? I'm not talking about myself. I mean, to some extent, I have not pushed my builds. I've not pushed my subscriber count or anything, mainly because I do this as a hobby, but also because I understand this problem, right? If, for example, my channel gets popular and everyone starts following my fucking league starts, I myself wouldn't be able to attain the items I want to get because I don't play at the rate like all these content creators do. I don't play the rate like everyone does, in a sense. I don't have the time, and I'm not willing to play that efficiently because I don't want to treat this like a bloody competition. It's entertainment for me. It's fun, right? I have work to do, and this is like the hobby I like to play. This is my hobby, right? I don't want to make it a full-time job. So if you have a content creator that doesn't have a lot of people looking at their builds, you're less likely to have a situation where other people are going to compete for the same gear as you, right? So I'll give an example. This league, no one's talking about like the helmet that what's it called? I forgot, the totem helmet. Yeah, I forgot what. Wilmer's Recruiter. Okay, there is a Wilmer's. You remember Wilmer's Recruiter? Last league, Wilmer's Recruiter was like really popular, and therefore at the league start it was like one divine. This league, to be frank, a lot of the Wilmer Recruiter mechanics are going to stay, right? And if you can find a build that utilizes it, I think you generally you generally do well, right? Could be EA totems. It could be like, I don't know, something like Doriani's Fist totems. I was considering it for league start this league. The only reason why I'm still deciding to stick with Deadeye is because Deadeye Icicle Miners, because Sanctum's back, right? And I know Sanctum kind of needs freeze to do well, and Icicle Mines was really strong in Sanctum, so that's why I'm continuing with Deadeye Icicle Mine. I didn't consider or think of doing some other build, because I mean, it's boring to do the same build again, but unfortunately for this particular league, there's too many good things for the build for the build I league started the last league with. Anyway, yeah, that's just my 2 cents about this whole shenanigan, this whole nonsense. The third method of like finding a good build, I would say, is, so if you look at Ruetoo's builds, right, this is what I would do. I wouldn't go for the build he's pushing for in that league. I would look at his builds in previous leagues, and then look at how those builds work, and see if anything has been like removed, or like anything has been nerfed of those builds. There are some builds, for example, like I think he did a Molten Strike champion in like 3.16 or something like that. But in 3.17, he didn't want to do the Molten Strike champion again. I looked at his build and I said, okay, a lot of the mechanics, the core mechanics of that build can still function if you tweak some stuff. And I came up with a really disgusting like build. I think it was Sentinel, doing Sentinel, that like did deep delving and did all the Uber bosses, and it was like super strong. So you can do stuff like that as well. You can take tech and builds that were developed by a content creator a league before or 2 leagues before that still function in the current patch that's coming, and then you can avoid like people trying to go for those items, because people always follow what's meta, and what's meta is always what the content creator is pushing out for that particular league. Anyway, that being said, yeah, hope you guys understand my perspectives on this, and peace. I'm out.